ICU.
Not with us today, and we started, what was that, 5:37 p.m., and so I guess our first agenda item is the approval of the minutes.
I didn't have any corrections.
I sent you all the minutes with the agenda and my email notice.
Yeah, I've got no edits to them.
Neither do
All right, so do we have a motion?
I. Move approval.
All right,
Second.
all right, and seconded. With no objection, that passes.
Opposed.
All right, next is citizen comment. And I do not believe we have anyone registered and no one present, so we'll open citizen comment at 5:39 p.m. And we can close citizen comment at 5:39 p.m. as well. And then next on the agenda is our management report. And I'll turn it over to Steve to give us all the good news.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of tell you some things just by property, and then there's some general discussion items that I'll get to towards the end. On Pete Dressen, the property is 97% occupied. The only unit that's not occupied is one that has been used for years as a storeroom. And we've estimated the cost to put that together at about $6,000 in materials, because it needs everything. Appliances, air conditioning, water heater, cabinetry, I mean, you name it, it needs it. And then Prentice said he figures it'll take him a couple of weeks to make it ready. And so I figured the total cost of that's going to run about $8,000 with the labor.
So it's getting rid of the storage.
Yeah, we already emptied it out. About a month ago, I got a roll-off, and they got all that out of there, and they went through this, they saved what they should save and put it in the storage over at Charles Young.
Okay.
Got a lot of the junk that was in Charles Young and put it in the roll-off, plus everything that was not worthwhile in the Pete Dressen one. And that's already come and gone, so that's over with.
That's gonna be great.
And so it's just a matter of me finding $8,000 to get the unit done. So I'm going to keep it as a vacant unit for right now, but we're going to do what we can to get it ready as soon as we can. As you know, we failed the REAC inspection, the second one on Pete Dressen. Sorry about that. We will get another one probably in December, maybe earlier. However, HUD did not flag either the ownership or the management company because they saw the progression being made. I reported to y'all that I met with two people from Fort Worth HUD at the property, and you know, they were disappointed as I was. I did file an appeal to try to get back 13 of the points. We had a 50. I tried to get 13.85 points back in order to get above 60, which would get us a year. That didn't happen. They did not approve all of the items I appealed, and so it kept it under 60. However, we did get a default notice from HUD, from the multifamily director. But like I said, no flags, and we have time to work out and get ready for the next REAC. I explained to them at the time that we had just been notified that we were going to have a REAC at Charles Young, and so we had to focus on that first, and then we'd get back on Pete Dressen. And FYI, the REAC at Charles Young was a 92B, which HUD didn't post that, or Public Housing didn't post that for about 5 weeks because they didn't believe the score. And I finally, I got a call from the inspector asking me if it had been posted, and I said no. I got a call finally from Brenner Stiles over at Public Housing, and she said, can you explain to me how you managed to get from a 50 to a 91 without any major expenditures? And I said, sure. So we did 100% unit inspection, made a list. We did 100% building inspection and made a list. And we repaired everything we found. The only item that didn't get repaired was a small section of sidewalk, about 3 foot by 3 foot, and that got written up as a trip hazard, and we lost 5.72 points on that. And then there was a couple other minor things, some small siding issues and stuff where it was like 0.06 point deductions. The big one was the sidewalk thing. But Prentice, the maintenance man, if he hasn't already done it, he's going to bust out that section of sidewalk, reform it, put some base in it, and then get some concrete, mix it up and put it in there. And then barricade it so it's only like a 42 by 42 inch section of sidewalk. It's not a big deal. I actually hired a company out of Ohio called Walkway Restoration, and they came down and did all of the trip and fall hazards. And I paid for that with some of the money I got from that
The donor?
donor that doesn't want to be identified. And it was $1,500 and some bucks, but the only thing they couldn't fix was that one spot. At any rate, getting back to peat dressing, I'm working, I've had several talks with the guy at USDA, Jay Tyler, and I'm working on a budget-based rent increase to submit to him by the middle of September. And he made no guarantee to me, but he said to put together the package and get it to him, and he'll do everything he can to get it through. I explained to him that I had done a rent comp study and we could raise the rents 92% at Pete Dressing. So his first question on that comment was, how does that affect the residents? I said it won't affect their portions at all. It'll just mean more money coming out of HUD. And he said, well, if that's the case, if you can justify the expenses to use all that money up, then I'll take a good hard look at it and take it to my boss. So I said, well, I can justify the expenses. You're just going to have to look at it with an open mind, because I've heard from too many people that USDA doesn't like budget-based rent increases. He said, that's not true. He said, I approve them every week. He said, maybe not the size you're talking about. That's why I would have to take it to my boss. Because I'm talking like, $192,000 rent increase for a year. At any rate, so that's in progress, and I've done a lot of work on it already, but I'm not ready to submit it to him. He did send me, Jay Tyler at USDA sent me a letter with 7 findings that are going to be time consuming to get removed, for the simple reason that some of the stuff I don't think ever was done from prior years. There's no record of it anywhere, and he doesn't have any record of it, and Erlob, the accounting people, don't have any record of it. So I've put that lower on my list of priorities at this time. This budget-based rent increase is more important, and so is getting ready for the next REAC inspection. We got to get that done. So I will get to that, and I let him know that I would get to that, but it would be, you know, a few weeks down the road.
Steve?
I've used up the donation.
May I ask a quick question?
Sure.
When we look at this return of the REAC probably in December, what do you think we'll be able to achieve, or where do you think we might score?
What do y'all think?
Oh, we're definitely gonna pass it. I mean, we were only 10 points from passing this last time. There's been a lot of things done. Honestly, the most points that we lost were on the exterior of the buildings. That includes the roof and the siding. You know, till we can get that done, we're not gonna score a 90 like we did at Charles Young. But all the interior is being, you know, everything on the interior, you know, is being repaired.
Okay.
And so with those points, you know, we'll definitely, you know, pass. And we're aiming for at least an 80. But realistically, it'll probably be somewhere around the high 70s is what we're aiming for.
That's great.
In fact, Jeanette just came down here about 3 weeks ago and walked every one of those units. Again, that's the third time.
Great.
So, and now that we're done with the REAC at Charles Young, Prentice is focusing his efforts on preparing for the next REAC at Pete Dressen, with the exception of taking care of service requests from the residents and stuff like that. With all the units occupied in both properties, except for that storeroom, there's no make-ready work to do until we get to that big deal one. So that'll be a little way down the road.
Great, thank you.
I used up all the donation money. I actually traded some emails with him recently, and I said, do you think you'd have an interest in donating some more? And he said I could. Let me know the next time you're going to be here. So I sent him an email about a week ago and said, I'm going to be in Kyle on the 30th. He said, I'm going to be in Wisconsin. He said, when I get back, I'll let you know and we'll plan another get-together. So he's open for that. We finally have all of both properties set up on the accounting, resident accounting software called OneSite. And by doing that, we finally got everything accurate as far as information and, you know, goes as far as things like rent collection and stuff of that nature. It was a task, to say the least, because the records were not very accurate. And now we've started finally to work on the tenant files. Fortunately, we've rented 6 of the 21 at Charles Young, so that only leaves 15 units of files to go through. And we rented 9 of the 30 at Pete Dressen, so that leaves 21 to go through there. Actually 20, because one of them is vacant. And we plan to have all of those files gone through and everything correct and updated and signed by everybody by the end of September. Isn't that what the goal you gave me?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, there's 2 more people that work with my company that are gonna come up and help them on September 14th, but Jeanette's gonna be here helping Deidre on that ahead of then. And they're just, you know, in fact, when I got here today, Jeanette was sitting there with a tenant file open. She was going through it. You know, they're trying to figure out exactly what we need to get everybody into correct. So that's progress. And you had offered a couple of meetings ago, Michelle, you had said, you know, you'd be glad to come help, but it really would not be a benefit, because if you don't know the forms and what's supposed to be, you know, checked and signed and whatever, it wouldn't be of any benefit for you. So,
All right.
but thanks for the offer.
Okay, you're welcome. Grateful for y'all,
Thank
definitely.
you.
How you doing?
Good. I guess conflicting information at a 5:30 meeting or 6 o'clock meeting for the housing.
Housing Authority?
Yeah, you're here, yeah, 5:30, but
So, oh, sorry to be late.
Okay.
no worries.
okay? I'm working on this housing authority, not the housing authority, Southwest Housing Compliance Corporation, the contract renewal, which goes into effect December 1st. And that'll be in conjunction with the rent increase, the budget-based rent increase I'm working on with USDA. USDA has to approve it before the housing authority can implement it. So it's kind of a two-step, process, but I gotta get USDA to do it first. The question came up in a meeting about 10 days or 2 weeks ago with several HUD people that, who's the executive director of the housing authority? And so I said, I'm not, I'm the management agent. And so the guy from HUD said he thought that I should also be the executive director. So I contacted,
I mean, you serve that role, so,
pardon me?
I said you serve that role,
I do serve that role, but it's not an official,
title, yeah.
Right.
And so I called the people at Public Housing and David Brenner's boss. And I asked him, I said, is there a requirement to have an executive director if there's a management company that's managing the facility? And his answer was no. I said, well then, obviously the HUD guy didn't know what he's talking about. And he said, well, that's because they don't do housing authorities and I do. He said, trust me, you don't need to be both the management agent and the executive director. So just so y'all know that. One of the things that Jay Tyler told me about Pete Dressen was that the RFR account is underfunded by $39,000 and change. Now, RFR stands for Reserve for Replacement Account. And that's as of the end of July. So that's another issue that I will have to deal with somewhere down the road. One of the things I'm going to do when I prepare this budget-based rent increase is I'm going to increase the monthly deposit for the RFR. And because now we have all the units occupied and we're actually bringing in more money, I can start actually funding that every month. I believe I mentioned to y'all, maybe not, maybe just Daniel, the auditor, Bill,
Yeah, the San Antonio,
I can't think of his name, last name, starts with a C.
Rocha.
Is it Rocha?
Yes. He is evidently out of business. I've been sending him and his senior auditor, or senior accountant in his office, emails for several months, and they keep kicking back to me. If you call his office, the message is that it's not a working number. If you Google him, it says temporary closed. But it's been like that now for about, probably since May, 4 months. So what I did, I talked to Erlab's people, and they weren't aware of that he had, closed up. So they did some research and found out that that was evidently accurate. So I've gotten a bid from another CPA firm called the Allen Carter. And I've got a proposal from them to do the audit. Bill Rocha was charging $11,500 to do the audit. The Allen Carter will charge $10,300 to do all of the same stuff. they do a lot of housing authorities. In fact, I was talking to Norma Little, who's in charge of their audit department yesterday, and she told me that at one time they were doing this housing authority, and then y'all changed. Not while y'all been on the board.
Right.
This was before the board was ever created. Okay? So if it's okay with you, I will sign the agreement to have them do the audit. Now, it doesn't even get started until January. It's through the period of 6/30/22 for that 12 months, but it's not due to HUD until March 31st of 23. So they'll typically start on it around January and finish it in late March. They happen to do several other properties that I manage, although I don't select them. The client selects the auditors. I recommend them to you because I know they do a good job and they're timely and their pricing is competitive. However, if you have any other firms you'd like me to get proposals from, I'll be glad to do that before a decision is made. But that's up to the board.
I mean, it seems like or the firm has the experience with housing authorities that they're working with, and it's less expensive than what we have been paying, so it would be a decrease, and we're trying to find ways to.
And I think you'll find that you'll get a better, more thorough job from them. I've worked with them for 8 or 10 years. And what they're doing is looking at me, so, my company.
So do we need to bring that forward with a motion or some sort of motion? Or no, like it just moves forward
When do we need to make a decision?
for this?
Well, you don't have to make a decision today, I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
So, yeah, I thought before historically, Frank would put it on the agenda
Yes.
and then we would approve it as an agenda item to engage.
Okay.
So we'll do that.
I'll add it to the next board meeting on the agenda.
Be great.
Okay, that's all I have on Pete Dressen. On Charles Young, it's 100% occupied. We got an excellent REACT score. I did have a meeting last Friday with a couple of people from public housing because Brenner had suggested to Daniel in an email earlier last week of the prospect of converting Charles Young from public housing to a different source of HUD, or different HUD program. And get out of public housing because of all the administrative work that's involved in it, which I will tell you is quite a lot. Compared to Pete Dressen, it's quite a bit. And so I met with Brenner and her boss, and they gave me a bunch of information. And I have not prepared anything to send to y'all, but I do have this is all the stuff they sent me. It gives you a lot of different options. One of the things I don't want to do yet is I don't want to get involved in that thought process for the simple reason that Gloria, who works for me and does all of our accounting, has been working with Brenner and a couple other people in the public housing office. And she recently got public housing to approve $38,000 and change. I'm sorry, $34,482 that was approved for 2019 as capital funds. And you have 5 years to spend that money. Why that was never done, I don't know the answer to, but it was never submitted for approval. And so Gloria, in her digging through the accounting process on the public housing side, has already got 2019 done, and now she's working on 2020. And that's gonna be a little more, I think that's about 38,000. And then 2021 will be, I'm not sure how much it's gonna be. So, once she gets those 3 years done, we'll have about $100,000 that we can actually spend on Charles Young. So, I don't wanna do anything to get out of the public housing program until I spend that money and improve those buildings. And then once we get through that process, then we'll look back and consider options like what they call RAD, which is a different kind of a program. There's actually 3 different ones they told me about that, you know, we could do. With RAD being probably the most likely one to do. But I don't want to leave that money sitting there, and I don't think you guys do either.
No, it
I
could be.
mean, that's money that should have gotten spent, you know, within the last 3 years. But at any rate, so that's another good thing going on at Charles Young. In general, I already told you about the audit. At our last meeting, there was some discussion about investigating the minutes, and I did research all of those, and I gave y'all everything that I could find that was available to be approved, and we approved those at the last meeting. Evidently, they were never properly recorded, and then Frank lost a bunch of them in a big windy rainstorm one night walking out of here. And I asked him when he told me that, I said, well, weren't they in the computer? And he said, no, I typed those. On a typewriter, Frank? He said, yeah. I said, okay. What was I gonna do? At any rate, so that's kind of that issue's done as far as I can tell. They're not up yet, but I purchased new signs for both properties. The one at Pete Dressen, the posts are real rotten. And so Prentice is gonna wait until we get a little more rain and the ground gets a little softer before he takes the old one down and cuts out, God bless you, cuts out the old posts and digs holes to put new ones in. The one at Charles Young, he said he's gonna keep those posts and he'll get both of those done next week. But the signs both look good. I saw both of them. Last week I went to the sign shop to look at them all. I was actually gonna put them in my truck and bring them up here, but the one for Pete Dressen was just too long. And so I had to get Prentice to drive up to San Antonio or down to San Antonio with his pickup truck and get them. Let's see what else. And then, you know, I've still, Jerry Hendricks reported to us yesterday that the city had approved to build in their upcoming budget starting in October, money to pay off the loan on P. Dressen and to also provide $75,000 to the property for improvements and make-readies and repairs, etc., and to pay me, because I got a pretty good-sized ticket out there right now. And then he also has talked to the county, and they're gonna match that $75,000 grant. So we'll get, hopefully, we'll get hopefully $150,000 from them sometime in October. And then there's That's all I have. I do have something else to discuss in executive session. Unless you guys have any questions for me.
Just so I understand, the approval from the city, paying off the entire loan and will be done.
Yeah, the balance on it, I emailed, on Jerry's request one day last week. I emailed, Jay Tyler up at USDA and said, if I was to pay the loan off tomorrow, how much would it be? And he sent me an email back within 10 minutes
Yes.
and said it was 182,000 and change. And so, you know, and a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned earlier that I was in a meeting with several HUD people. Jerry Hendricks was on that meeting, another lady from his office, I don't remember what her name was, and the mayor was on that call. It was a Zoom meeting. And, you know, we discussed, HUD wanted to know what the city was gonna do with peat dressing. They don't care about chow junk. But they want to know what the city was gonna do with peat dressing. And, you know, the mayor was adamant that he couldn't believe that there'd be a 9% 50-year loan in place still. And that before anything got done, that needed to be taken care of. And so they decided to have another meeting yesterday, which would have been a 2-week follow-up. And the lady, the account exec from HUD emailed Jerry yesterday morning and asked him if the city had made any progress. And he reported back to them that they had, and what was going to happen, and it would occur starting in October. So they postponed or canceled the meeting until sometime in October or September. I don't remember. The mayor got into that when he saw the cancellation of the meeting and wanted to know why it was being canceled. And so I guess he and Jerry talked and he explained it to him. So, anyway,
Great.
that is, that's my report.
That's great.
Terrific.
That's awesome.
What a great
We have made a
partnership.
lot of progress in spite of that REAC inspection, which has irritated me to no end.
Well, Steve, you did a fantastic job.
We're getting there.
Thank you. And
I
thanks
told
to
you
the
I was
city.
gonna take 18 months, so.
Well, there was a lot to work through for us, and, you know, I'm very pleased at what's happening on your end, and having Jeanette and Deidre here, and your husband here, and then just that partnership with the city. I'm very pleased. This is a part of our community, and I'm so excited that we did and were able to partner with them on this.
Well, Jerry Hendricks has been a real help.
Great.
I mean, I've asked him numerous other things that I don't remember if I even included Daniel in the emails, but one day I sent him an email and said, who will the city get to mow the lot next to Pete Dress? And the next day, there was people from the city out there mowing the lot. I never got a response. I just found out that they were mowing.
That's great.
And, you know, Jerry finally emailed me, he said, I've been so busy, but it's already taken care of.
That's
great.
awesome.
Thankful for Jerry too.
But he's been a real help. That was, he's just been a real help.
He's always
Well, I
been-
think you're gonna get the same kind of cooperation from the county.
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he seemed to think that too when I talked to him a few minutes ago. But he said it's not a sure thing, you know.
Yeah.
He used the word may.
Until they all vote on it,
Right.
or until the county commissioner for this area does something.
That's awesome. All right.
Awesome.
So it's 6:12, so we've concluded the update. Sir,
Mr. Campos?
were you wanting to speak?
So,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
so sorry to
So
ask
we're-
this question, but so is this the Tuesday task force?
Oh,
So I had two emails telling me one to be here and then another one, I guess I was in a different spot, but, I might not be in the.
That
Is
is-
there another meeting here in City Hall?
I can't hear him.
That is outside of my knowledge, because this is our meeting for the Kyle Housing Authority.
And you have nothing to do with like the property easements and,
No,
so
No.
sorry.
I apologize to.
No, we consumed 20 minutes of your life, I'm sorry.
But you're always welcome.
Yes.
And you know more about the housing authority right now than you did when you walked in the door.
It's,
Was it not on the website? with the
it's like,
listings?
for my HOA board, they sent me two different, and one's a call and saying it was here at the hall. There any other meeting with me in the hall?
So the room next door, they had a meeting.
They did.
We were upstairs, they said. it was-
There's a meeting upstairs in
And
the
there's
conference room too.
upstairs.
Is there?
Are you familiar, you
I'll
know
go
where
upstairs.
we're upstairs? That might be.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, we should ask when you
It's nice
first came
seeing you
in.
again.
I didn't want to interrupt you guys. I feel like I'm interrupting. You'll have
It's
to-
all
All
right.
right, thank you.
So,
Have a good evening.
all right. And so it looks like though, Steve, executive session didn't get put onto our posted agenda, so we won't, I don't think we'll be able to go into executive session this time, so we'll have to regroup on that at a later date.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not.
Which I think is fine.
Huh?
I think that's fine. So, all right, so with that, any more business before the housing authority for this meeting? All right.
Nope.
So do we need a motion to adjourn or are we just allowed to adjourn?
So
We
moved.
can move it
All right.
to adjourn. Second.
All right.
Second.
So, all right, so it is 6:15 PM and we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all for being here.
Thanks for all the hard work.